Hello, comic book fans. Welcome to another exciting edition of Cammy's Comic Corner. I'm your host, as always, Cammy. I'm going to go ahead and try to get through this because not only do we have a pick of the week and the Fast Five, but I have some important Cammy's Comic-Con Corner announcements at the end. Mum's the word unless you skip ahead. But why would you? You'd miss all this great show. So, from Vertigo, the pick of the week is American Vampire Survival of the Fittest #2, written by Scott Snyder and arts by Sean Murphy. Now we have Felicia and Cashel under the disguise of American Nazi sympathizers. They're trying to fly over to Romania to fund Dr. Pavel's study so they can go ahead and get him the hell out of there as soon as possible. Well, they have a wrong landing code which proceeds to get them shot down out of the air by the Nazis, and they barely make it. Like, they're this close to going over the cliff. And the welcoming party, Cashel gives them a piece of their mind. Instead of a bloody shootout that, provides them getting nowhere, Cashel calms Felicia down and he starts acting like an American, saying like, what the hell, we're trying to fund you guys here, and this is what the welcoming we get, screw your landing codes. So the Nazis, they might suspect something's up, but they're like, okay, well this is convincing enough, let's take you to Castle Vlan, and you can meet the good doctor. Dr. Pavel's very excited to meet these Americans. He's never met Americans before, never leaves his lab, so this must be really important to him. And he slips Cashel a note saying like, hey, we need to leave now or else we're all dead. So there's a whole presentation that he's going to show them, the Nazis, everyone. And so if they don't get out of the castle before that presentation, again, like the note says, they're all dead. So Cashel and Felicia, they get ready for battle. They go rendezvous with the doctor and say, okay, well, let's take that walk around the grounds you were promising us. And he starts speaking in a different code, like, no, that would be a bad idea because we have more guests for the presentation. And sure enough, as the Nazi colonel points out, yes, we have the 77th Brigade stopping by for the presentation as well. Cashel's like, I don't see anybody. And they're in like an auditorium. And the 77th Brigade is a Nazi vampire brigade, which is just like, first of all, okay, that's pretty cool. Secondly, fuck, now what are they going to do? They can't get the doctor out that way. There was great humor in this book. There was Sean Murphy's fantastic art in this issue, and Scott Snyder's fantastic story. This guy knows how to write vampires. I mean, if you're not reading the ongoing already, you should. But yes, Survival of the Fittest, if you want your Nazi vampires, how you like your regular vampires only with Nazis, it's quite the pick. Hands down, pick of the week, that's for sure. Now on to the Fast Five. First up, we have Amazing Spider-Man 665. Usually Betty Brant and Peter Parker have movie nights, like first Friday of every month. Well, since Peter is now a part of, his day job as a scientist, the Avengers, New Avengers, and the Future Foundation now, he doesn't really have time for a movie night. So Betty keeps trying to, pressure him to seeing this one movie in particular, but again, he says, no, I can't, sorry, I don't care if it's a week left in the theaters, we'll catch it on cable, okay? Well, Betty doesn't like this, so even though the last theater it's playing at in New York is in this little Czech town, where it has a bad reputation of being, thuggish and whatnot, she goes, takes her chances, sees the movie, and gets mugged afterwards. But she's in critical condition. This was not a fun mugging for her. She wasn't raped, but she was beaten the crap out of severely. And so everyone from the Daily Bugle, the mayor, the frontline editors, they all are coming to her aid, but everyone's going, where the hell is Peter? Like, this is her best friend. Why isn't he here? Well, he's trying to track down the guy who did this to her and gets the locket back, but after having a conversation with his Aunt May, who's like very disappointed in him for not coming to his friend's side, it finally makes him realize, like, yeah, this is the Ben situation all over again. I wasn't there for somebody, or I just blew him off, and sure enough, it was my fault that they might have ended up like this. So they have their, they reunite in the hospital, they have their movie night, and it was just very touching. It was a great issue, and Ryan Stegman did a great job on art, but Dan Slott really loves Spider-Man, and he really loves giving us these stories and just entertaining us with it. It's just Spider-Man, you do me and Spider-Man, but then you have that one moment that is a totally Spider-Man Peter Parker moment that really is the icing on the cake. It was a great issue, good job. Now I'm kind of intrigued for Spider-Man Island. Could be cool. Next up from Image, we have The Red Wing #1. Now this is Jonathan Hickman, Marvel architect, back at Image, doing his very own created our own series. I don't know how he got away with it, but he's Jonathan Hickman. He apparently has some nude photos of somebody over at the Marvel offices. But basically, we have a whole new concept through time travel. Having a war throughout time. So you're training to, you know, fly in these spaceships that go through time and have special shielding that if it's punctured, you just completely eradicate in front of people's eyes. Like you suddenly start becoming older, and then you're dust by the time your ship crashes. But we focus on a new generation. One guy in particular, Dominic Dorn, who is a legacy. His father was a part of this Red Wing battalion, as it were, and he's learning the guns. So it kind of feels like a Top Gun sense, only with like Doctor Who kind of mixed in. But there's some supposed enemy that it's too late. They beat us here again. That they're trying to go at war with. We don't really know the specifics right now. But Dominic's father, we see he got lost in time, and because his shielding failed, he was supposed to die. But something in the pod, one of like the emergency devices, kept him alive. So even though he crash landed and is alive, he's alive now back in the time of the Aztecs. So it's going to be really hard for him to get back. And I just got to say, as much as I love Nick Pitara's art in this, I've never heard of the guy before, but it was very entertaining to look at. It kind of looked like a Seth Fisher meets Frank Quietly, almost. There, in this Aztec, ceremony, there's an Olmec head by the side. So I don't know if there's just a bad reference or what, but Olmec, Aztec, not the same. Matter of fact, I think Olmec were before the Aztecs, but that was just a little nitpick by me. But it's fun seeing Jonathan Hickman on his own book again. Like, not a Marvel book, because, don't get me wrong, I've been loving Future Foundation and Fantastic Four, but done by him. But his Image stuff is what made him great. And now he's coming back and giving us more. I'm on board for this miniseries, absolutely. Go check it out. It's Jonathan Hickman at his finest. You're going to have fun. Next up from Dark Horse, we have Hellboy the Fury, #2. Basically, all that happens in this issue is good versus evil. You have the Battle of England. You have armies of Nimue doing battle with King Arthur's long-lost army. And then while all this is going on, it's Nimue in dragon form taking on Hellboy. And the one thing, it's just page after page of battle. Like, England is suffering because of this, because magic is starting to overlap into reality. So you get kind of scenes from both sides of the playing field here. But Duncan Fegredo's art is like Mike Mignola's, only a lot more beautiful. And I know it's really hard to top Mignola, but I remember for years I was clamoring for Mike Mignola to get back on art, stop doing the covers, do story and art, just like how you started and began with. But Fegredo, he can stay on this title for as long as he wants, because it's just like the perfect art for Hellboy. And especially with all the different battle scenes you have in this issue, it blows you away. Dave Stewart on colors, Duncan on art. It's a match made in heaven. And you as the Hellboy fan and reader, you are just going to have your mind blown. It is that beautiful. Go pick it up. You don't even have to know what's going on in the story. You're just going to be entertained by the art alone, that's for sure. Next up from Marvel, we have X-Men Schism #1. Now, first of all, this might be weird because I am not an X-Men fan in the slightest. I get confused easily. There's too many characters. They're all battling. Scott Summers is a dick. Don't care. In this little event in the Marvel Universe, in the X-Men side of things, when I heard that Jason Aaron was the main architect here, and he was going to be the one giving us these great stories, I was like, okay, all right, I'll give it a try. I'll just see what happens. Carlos Pacheco on art, can't be that bad. And it wasn't that bad. I was very impressed. And if I can like it, then anyone else who's not an X-Men fan will enjoy this. You have Scott Summers speaking at the International Arms Control Conference in Switzerland. He brings along Wolverine as a bodyguard. Wolverine just wants some rest because he's on even more teams than Peter Parker is, and yet he never gets time for a little shut-eye. Well, he's brought along, and Scott is basically wanting every country in the world to decommission their Sentinels program because he knows they're out there, and he doesn't want to debate this. And because he doesn't want to debate this, and it sounds kind of like a demand, if anything, the countries are just like, we don't know what you're talking about, but if you don't have a shred of evidence of us having this, then, why should we even bother listening to you? Then comes Kid Omega into the mix, and he makes all these leaders of these different countries speak the truths. And these truths are quite ugly. And because of it, there's a backlash now against the mutants once again. And every country has their Sentinels up and running, and it looks like they're ready to invade Utopia and declare war on the X-Men. This is nothing new to the X-Men, but it still puts them in a sticky pickle. And meanwhile, the people, the Kilgores who are in charge of the Sentinels program, The main CEO was just overthrown by his son, who is now the new Black King of the Hellfire Club. That's right, we have a new Hellfire Club now too. So a lot of very interesting things are happening in this event, and it intrigues me enough to stick around. So I'm going to be sticking around. You have my word for that. Especially if it's a new artist every issue, that's more than half the fun right there. And finally this week from PC, we have Green Lantern number 67. Now this is the end of all ends of the War of the Green Lantern saga. We have Krona and the Guardians versus the Green Lantern Corps. Hal's able to get, thanks to Kyle, help get the other lantern colors out of the Book of Black, and they all combine together to try to go up against Krona, who now has all the rings, and now he has all the control all over everything. He's a big dude now. Like, there's no denying that. Well, Sinestro is recruited by the Green Lanterns, and he's once again a Green Lantern just to play against Krona. And Hal Jordan makes the final kill shot because he has that much willpower, and kills and destroys Krona. Everyone goes back to normal, but now the Guardians don't want any of the colors on their... that sounds wrong. Any of the other color guards on Oa, sends them all away. They'll deal with the Sinestro situation, not to worry about. Hal Jordan, you just killed a Guardian. Yes, Corona's a Guardian, but he's also an evil Guardian who's about to enslave the entire universe. So just the amount of ignorance is just beyond me of these Guardians. Like, they, even if it wasn't an evil one of their own, they just were looking for that final straw that broke the camel's back to get rid of Hal Jordan. So Hal Jordan is no longer a Green Lantern. He is put back down on Earth, and this is going to lead up to the events in September when the whole Green Lantern is relaunched again. But now the very interesting thing is Sinestro is a Green Lantern, and I would like that. I would like to see what stories Johns can produce with that. But at the same time, I'm glad that this finally came to an end, because it felt like there were a lot of events going on with the Green Lantern universe in the past year or two, that maybe it's okay to take a break now and let this relaunch happen and, start fresh. Because while I love Green Lantern, he's my favorite superhero, it can get rather tedious at times, I must say, with all the different colors. Believe me, I know I have fans saying, like, listen, I dropped Green Lantern a while ago. I felt like that sometimes too, but I think this was a good conclusion for quite the epic run by Johns, and I can't wait to see what happens next. Well, comic book fans, that does it this week for Cammy's Comic Corner. If you want more Cammy's Comic Corner goodness, check out www.cammyscomiccorner.com. Every Sunday you get the weekly video review show. Every Wednesday you get Geeky Talkie, the audio podcast. And every Friday you get Cammy's favorite covers. And then at the start of the month, you get the Book of the Month selection. And at the end of the month, you get the Top Shelf selection. Now for Comic-Con news. I will be attending next week, which means, first of all, there will not be a review show next Sunday. But if you want to hear my nightly recaps of what I saw at the convention, check out Geeky Talkie. I will be doing Cammy's Comic-Con Corner Geeky Talkie recap episodes. We'll be talking about what we saw, who we met, who we shagged, etc. And also, the week following Comic-Con, there should be video and interviews up. I'm going to be working my ass off to get those out to you guys right before the iFanboy guys do, because I just, that's my goal. It's always get it out before they do. But speaking of the iFanboy guys, I'm going to be a part of a panel on Thursday, the 21st, from between 4 to 5 p.m. in the afternoon in Room 9. I'm going to be part of the 6th annual comic book podcasting panel. We'll be there with Comic Geek Speak, Lycomania, Comic News Insider, iFanboy, and many, many more. So if you want to see me and you're going to Comic-Con, that's where you're going to get to see some FaceTime with me for sure. And then I'll be running around the convention trying to cover everything, trying to interview everyone, as it were. So that does it this week for Cammy's Comic Corner. I have been your host, Cammy. Follow me on Twitter because there will be a lot of drunken tweets next week, that's for sure. Good night, everybody.